Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment coming off of the heels of the introductory press conference for new Tennessee Titans general manager Rand Carthon. And I liked the hire initially. Go back and watch my initial reaction to Rand Carthon's hiring. What was it, Tuesday, if you haven't already? But now I'm really starting to love it. Now, it's going to be quite the statement to say that I can sit here and confidently say that he's going to be better than John Robinson. I'm not going to go that far. But what I will say, specifically when it comes to talent evaluation, but what I will say is I do believe you're set up for a better relationship between the general manager and the head coach and the general manager and the rest of the front office and organization overall. Because there was an undertone to this press conference. If you were paying attention, and go watch the full press conference if you haven't already. Carthon kept mentioning collaboration. We heard Amy Adams Strunk when she elaborated on why she fired John Robinson maybe a week ago now. She was emphasizing that she wanted more collaboration. Again and again and again and again, they were beating us over the head with this word collaboration. What does this mean? This means that ultimately what must have happened is that John Robinson was making decisions, final decisions, despite pushback from others in the front office, from Mike Vrabel, and maybe some of the coaches, and maybe even Amy Adams Strunk herself. Maybe. And now I'm not gonna go that far because that's kind of wild to do stuff that your owner just disagrees with. I mean, that's just wild to do. I don't know if he's doing that, but certainly, and we saw this with the AJ Brown. I mean, it was very obvious when AJ Brown was traded. John Robinson was doing his own thing and making final decisions and decisions that people disagreed with throughout the organization, and that's something that Rand Carthon is not going to do. He saw that got John Robinson fired, so he ain't gonna do that. Now, we still don't know who really has the final call. Ultimately, because it is his job title, it has to be Carthon, right? Like, it'd be, unless if they just are not saying it and it's Vrabel and they're just not going to say that. But ultimately, when you're on the clock in the first round, look, someone has to write a name down, and usually it is the general manager that has those obligations. Now, rarely it will be like a Belichick or I think maybe Pete Carroll does have the final say for Seattle. Who else has the final say? Those are the two that come on top of my head right now. I'm sure there's one or two others. Maybe Andy Reid might. Even Andy Reid, I'm not sure if he does. Ultimately, I think when the name is written down, I still think it will be Carthon. I mean, it still has to be. Like, unless if the head coach is like really, and Belichick has earned it with all the Super Bowls that he's gotten, and he's been, heavily involved in the scouting. When it comes to the Vrabel, again, he's such like a player's coach, and someone that is not a true scout or talent evaluator, in my opinion. I just haven't seen that, to where I still think Carthon should have the final decision. I really do believe that, but we'll see. Now, what I will say is that what you will see is, especially when it comes to the later rounds of the draft, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round, I think he's going to let some of his, directors of player personnel or college scouting, actually make the call. If he maybe wants to pick a guy, but then the director of player personnel says no, like, we've looked at analytics, we've watched the tape, and all of our entire scout team really thinks we should take player X over your player Y, I think he's going to listen. And I think in that case, while it was still his final say, he's going to go with the crowd in that sort of scenario. And in more scenarios than maybe John Robinson was going for, right? It seems as if there were scenarios in which the majority of the room disagree with whatever decision John Robinson was going to make, but he would make it anyway. So it's going to be much more of a consensus from the front office. It seems as if that was not the case. Okay, so fine. You fired the general manager because of that, and you better see better results, right? You better see better results as a result of that. So we're going to see. But I want you also to do this if you have the time. If you, when you're done watching the Rand Carthon press conference, and you certainly should watch the entire thing. I mean, this was One of the most impressive general manager introductory press conferences I've ever seen. Certainly the most impressive I've ever seen for this franchise. Mike Reinfeldt was not nearly this impressive. John Robinson was impressive, not nearly this impressive. Russ Webster was impressive. Turns out he was kind of a joke, unfortunately. But this was incredible. And I want you to go watch Monty Austin Fort, the former director of player personnel for the Tennessee Titans, who was just hired by the Arizona Cardinals. And I want you to go watch his introductory press conference because that one was terrible. And I want you to compare and contrast. I mean, my God. Go watch Monty Austin Fort's press conference after or even before, it doesn't matter, when you watch Rand Carthon's. And you're going to be like, I couldn't even believe it when I watched it without even having watched Ray Carthon's yet. I was watching Monty Austin Fort's introductory press conference. He was awkward. He was very nervous, answering questions in a very nervous manner, in my opinion, not giving definitive answers at all in terms of what he's going to do. Well, we're instill a winning culture. I have, certain processes that I believe in and that we're going to do. Not giving any specifics whatsoever, none at all whatsoever. Just giving New England speak. Because remember, he spent a lot of time in New England, just like John Robinson, giving a lot of New England Bill Belichick talk, which sounds great. And I know they've won a lot of Super Bowls in the last 20 years. But if you don't know how to implement it, it ain't going to work out. Ask all the former coaches under Bill Belichick how they're doing. They've tried to instill those same philosophies in other organizations, and how well has it worked out for them? So I was not impressed with Monty Austin Fort's introductory press conference. Way more impressed with Grant Carthon. So thank God we did not hire Monty Austin Fort. Okay, we can go ahead and thank God for that. Furthermore, it sounds like he's not going to make, at least initially, many decisions in terms of the front office. I think you're not going to see any decisions made until after the first season. He might bring in a couple scouts. Right now, we do have an empty spot in terms of the director of player personnel now that Monty Austin Fort is now gone. I would assume that Ryan Cowden might assume that position, or he would go back to being, was he the director of pro personnel, or is that someone else? It should have been Ryan Cowden. Let me make sure that was Ryan Cowden who was the director of player personnel. Pro personnel. He was vice president of player personnel. So we'll see if he goes back to that role. Maybe Monty puts Ryan Cowden in now as director of player personnel. So we'll see on that, or president, or I don't know what other position he could give him. We'll see. It sounds like Ryan Cowden's going to stay, and some of these other guys are going to stay. I definitely think he's going to bring in a guy or two. I think he's going to bring in maybe even one higher ranking guy, maybe as the new director of player personnel, or some vice president of player personnel, or whatever they want to call the position. I would expect that. And then after a year, maybe next year, he fires the director of college scouting if he feels like they needs to be fired, their changes need to be made. Or, he fires some national scouts, some regional scouts, some area scouts, and gets some of his guys that he's worked with in here. So I think he's definitely going to go ahead and bring some lower tier scouts in here now initially, at least in the upcoming months. And then next year is when you're really going to see more, some more significant changes taking place. So definitely, it was so impressive. You're very well spoken, and and what I love about him too is, his father, former NFL player himself, and a guy that was a coordinator at the NFL level, former coach, and you see that influence in him. So he has, knowledge of coaching in his family. He's been around coaching. He's been around playing. He's played himself. He's been a scout. He's scouted himself. He's done pro. He's done college. I mean, this guy's been around. He's been around successful organizations, and he's really ready to come in here and work with the other, significant, let's say executives, the other significant parts of his coaching staff and the staff in general in the front office. And I don't know how you could have watched this press conference and not have come out very excited. I mean, I think you had to be extremely excited. Now, one thing that he did note about the quarterback position, he said that he wants to evaluate it further. So there was no definitive answer as to whether or not Ryan Tannehill will be the starting quarterback next year, despite Vrabel saying that Ryan Tannehill will probably be the next starting quarterback next year at the end of the season press conference. What is it now? Like nearing a couple weeks ago. So interesting. He said he's also going to consult with Vrabel on that, get his opinion what's going to happen there. It's always an interesting circumstance when the new GM comes in. I mean, he's going to watch, and then look, as a director of player personnel for the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, he knows Ryan Tannehill. He already has his opinion of it. Now, he may not have watched all 17 games of Tannehill this season, but I mean, last season, when was the last time we played the 49ers? We haven't played them. We played them last year. So I'm sure last season he watched the tape on Tannehill. So he already knows a lot. He just needs to watch, this year's tape and, much of last year's tape that, he didn't maybe necessarily get to get a better assessment, get a better assessment from the coaching staff, opinions also from the front office as well, to gather much more of an opinion. But don't buy into the fact that he doesn't already have some opinion of Ryan Tannehill, and that he has not already expressed that specifically and explicitly to Amy Adams Strunk and the rest of the ownership. I mean, when those meetings are taking place, they ask you, what are your thoughts on Tannehill? What are your thoughts on Henry? What would you do with Tannehill? Do you see Tannehill as a long-term answer? Why not? These questions take place. While they're not going to admit it in their press conference, of course these questions take place. Because if Amy Adams Strunk is still sold on Tannehill being the starting quarterback next year, and in the interview, Ray Carthon doesn't say that, well, guess what? You're probably not going to get the job. Right? Maybe unless if he gives like a shady answer and then he just ends up going back on his word, but then he's going to get fired. Maybe not year one, but he's already on the ropes and already in trouble for doing things that he said he wasn't going to do in the interview. So we're going to see nothing definitive yet, nothing that we can see in terms of where we're going in terms of that position yet, but now we're starting to have those discussions regarding Trey Lance. So let's go ahead and touch that Trey Lance issue, because he is coming from the San Francisco 49ers. And you'd have to believe, even though he was, at the time, he was director of pro personnel, he was involved in some draft discussions, and you have to believe he had some input on Trey Lance, and you have to believe that he likes Trey Lance, because, I mean, all the reports were everyone liked Trey Lance in the front office, except for Shanahan. As coach, Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. Everyone else wanted Trey Lance. So, is it possible? With Trey Lance now also on his Instagram story, he took a picture, or he actually shared a post about Ray Carthon now being the general manager for the Tennessee Titans. He reshared that with 3 fingers crossed emojis. Now, what does that mean? Is he fingers crossed that maybe I can get out of here and go join Ray Carthon in Tennessee? Or is that fingers crossed like good luck, I wish you well in Tennessee? Now, look, here's my thing. Yes, fingers crossed, like it's like a good luck thing. In this context, I don't buy that. I just don't buy. If he wanted to say good luck, he would have said good luck. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't buy that. I think it's shady. I think it's 55% shady. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you saw that post. Actually, let me see if I can actually share that post right now. Yeah, because I should have this still on my Twitter. And let me show you guys exactly the picture I'm talking about. Because I think it's shady. I just don't know why you would post this. Let me see if I can save this and then share this and show you guys a specific Instagram story. I just don't buy that this is a good luck post. I just don't buy that. That doesn't make sense to me. It just really doesn't make sense to me. Where did this save to? Let me share this in folder. Open in File Explorer. One second for those of you that are watching live. There we go. Okay, so this was the Instagram story that, wow, that was way bigger than I thought it was going to be, that Trey Lance had shortly after Rand Carthon was reported. This wasn't even when it was official, but when it was reported that he was going to be hired by the Tennessee Titans. And as you can see, by the time I finally minimize it enough, yeah, so he reposted the post by this 49er edits Instagram, and it has these 3 fingers crossed emojis. Is that a good luck thing? Do you guys think he's just saying good luck? Like, I'm wishing you luck. I'm wishing you luck. I don't buy that. Like, I can see the argument. I'm not going to say I can't see, but this is like, fingers crossed, maybe something can happen here to me. That's how I'm interpreting that. That's how I'm interpreting that. But we're going to see. So, that's a possibility. Now, let's entertain it for a moment. And this is even video worthy enough because it's good clickbait and it's a good discussion topic. But we'll go ahead and discuss it briefly here. Would I be interested in Trey Lance? What would I give him for Trey Lance? Let's discuss it. Now, I would be interested if he has, obviously, the approval of Rand Carthon for whatever reason, and he'd have to justify it. But I would only trade a second-round pick from him. You cannot trade the 11th pick overall for Trey Lance. No, not from what you've seen in the NFL. No. And by the way, I liked what I saw from him last season. And this season, in the one game that he played, at least the one full game that he played, it was a monsoon. So he didn't play well, but neither did Justin Fields, neither did anyone on that football field. It was a disastrous game. And his preseason performances have been very up and down. Very up and down. So for this point, I think he looks like a second-round pick. I think there's a lot of potential, but I don't think he's a first-round. I'd rather just send the first round and take someone else than for Trey Lance. And they traded for 3 first-round picks for him. So I don't think they're going to give up him for a second. I think they'd rather just hold on to him and just stick with the investment. So I don't think that this is a real scenario as of this moment because they invested so much in him. Even if Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl. If Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl, you know what? Like, here's the thing. I would at least, like, I think Brock Purdy, if he was the Super Bowl, even at this point, I think Brock Purdy deserves to compete next year. But if you win the Super Bowl and you still believe in Lance, you can play Lance again, and then if he stinks, you put Purdy back in. You're not going to get fired if you're Shanahan or Lynch. No way. You just won the Super Bowl. So if you still really believe in Lance and you think he's a franchise guy and he can win you more Super Bowls, well, this Super Bowl you just won just bots you another 3-4 years to do whatever you want. You can go ahead and experiment with Lance for 3, 4, 5 games. If he stinks, take him out, put Purdy back in, and then that's the end of Trey Lance. But they invested so much in him. Even if they win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, I think they're going to want to give Lance another shot. At the very least, it'll be a competition. So I just don't see that scenario taking place as of right now. We'll see on that. But for right now, I still anticipate that the 49ers roll into next year with Trey Lance. I don't see him being traded yet, even if they win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy at the helm. So, Rand Carthon, introductory press conference. We have some super chats and some comments that I want to get to, so let's get to those, and then we can get out of here. All right, so let's begin. We have a super chat from Courtney Tyree Jones, who says the following. Keep up the good work, man. Shout out for Memphis. Thank you, Courtney Tyree Jones. Definitely will keep up the good work. More off-season content coming. I know last off-season I was very busy and I didn't produce that much content, but this year I have a much more scheduled and structured life, so expect more off-season content this year for sure. All right, thank you for super chat, Courtney Tyree Jones. We also have a super chat from this is Tighten Up Upside Down. Thank you for the super chat, Tighten Up Upside Down. At first, I thought I was reading a different language. I was like, what the hell does this say? He says, what's good, Malik Hater? Hashtag Tighten Up. Well, I mean, look, you can call me a Malik Hater. I wanted him to play. And they pulled him. They pulled him like it was a Looney Tunes cartoon. They said, that's all, folks, and they yanked him. They yanked him off the stage with 2 weeks left in the season. They yanked him. I wanted him to play. Okay, so it's funny. I went from the biggest Malik hater to now having to defend him. I wanted him to play over Dobbs because I'm like, I know he can't play right now, but at least let him develop, damn it. And now he can't even do that. Good luck off season, Malik Willis, but thank you for the super chat. Tighten up. We also have Kick It to the King Productions. Thank you for the super chat. He says, if getting Trey Lance means getting the Joshua Dobbs fans to shut up, get him. LOL. Brock is a 2023 starter for the 49ers. Traded fifth for Trey. Again, I just don't see any scenario in which there, especially a fifth, you traded 3 first-round picks for this guy. I mean, it's insanity to 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 take a fifth for him. They'd get at least on the open market at least a third. Someone would give up a third for Trey Lance. Remember, guys, this guy had 28 touchdowns to zero interceptions in for North Dakota State. So I mean that is no small feat. That is something that you always have to remember. I mean, this guy did produce for North Dakota State to a level that got him drafted third overall. So I would be very hesitant to go that far when it comes to the Trey Lance. Hey, there's still much more left in him. Again, his preseason performance has been inconsistent, but I've also seen he played well against the Cardinals last year. I liked his performance against the Cardinals last year, and still a lot of potential there. So we'll see, but is he the starter for 2023? I think he's gonna compete. Yeah, I think he's gonna compete, and we'll see if he ends up getting it done and wins the job. But thank you for the super chat. Kick it to the King Productions. Wow, there's a lot of super chats today. Should I go live on Friday, early Friday evenings? Is this the lit time? Zoe Almighty says, I disagree with you saying they would stay with Trey Lance if they win the Super Bowl. Think about the draft compensation they would get from him. We'll see. Again, they already invested so much. They already invested so much in him. They believed in him. They've already formed a bond with him. I'm not saying that he's definitely the starter. I'm just saying they let him compete. I think they just go into training camp saying it's Brock versus Trey. That maybe they say Brock is a starter, but like if Trey really outforms Brock, they would make the switch. I definitely, like in training camp, I think they feel comfortable making the switch and giving Lance another shot. Even if Brock wins the Super Bowl, which I don't have happening, by the way. But it's possible. It's certainly possible. I mean, right now I give the 49ers the third best chance. I like Chiefs, Eagles, and then the 49ers in that order. Yes, the 49ers are better than the Eagles, but the 49ers have a harder path. 49ers might lose this week to the Cowboys. I wouldn't be surprised. And I know that'd be shocking to a lot of you, but this might be the year for the Cowboys to actually sneak up on some folks. So we'll see. But again, when you trade 3 first-round picks for a guy and he still has that fifth-year option, he's going into year 3. I think they stick with him, and I think they're probably going to give him another shot. So we'll see on that, but thank you for the super chat, Zoe Almighty. I don't know why that posted 3 times up there, but whatever. All right, some individual comments. You have Omar Nawabi who says, would you want to trade for Trey Lance or Jordan Love? I would prefer Trey Lance over Jordan Love for sure. I haven't seen nearly enough from Jordan Love, but I've seen something from Trey Lance. Ronnie LeBron says, as Sports Entertainment, I think he needs to bring in his own strength and conditioning staff because I don't know what's to do with our current guys, but the injuries around here are unreal. And the thing is, I mean, how many connections does he have to strength and conditioning coaches? I don't know. I'm not sure if that's something that he's been focusing on. If he knows a lot of guys, he can put into words to see what's going to go on. I mean, Vrabel has to say when it comes to that as well. So they both need to coordinate and get a better strength and conditioning staff in here because, yeah, the injuries have definitely been insane for this team. Omar Nawabi also says, as Sports for Entertainment, who would you want for offensive coordinator? Now, of all the guys that we have currently interviewed, my leading candidate, and by the way, I'm not a big fan of the list because what is it? It's Tim Kelly, it's Matt Nagy. We've requested for Eric Bieniemy. We'll see what he says. We've requested for, who else was it? Oh, no, we requested for Matt Nagy. We haven't actually heard back from him yet. And someone else that I can't remember. Oh, and Charles London, the quarterback coach for the Falcons. This is a terrible list. This is a terrible list of candidates. Or if these are the candidates, then, I don't know, fine, promote Tim Kelly. But this is a terrible list. I need to see another name on this list. This is an awful list. This is a terrible list. I can't believe that this is the list of candidates that I've seen thus far. Are we even trying? So hopefully this list improves. If not, I'm not going to be very excited about who we get in the offseason for our offensive coordinator position because I'm not encouraged by any of those names at all. Absolutely at all. All right, one more question. We'll do Andre Bunting, who says, as sports fan entertainment, which do you think would be better? Go for a quarterback this year, let Malik sit behind Ryan Tannehill, or let Malik roll next year and see if he balls or sucks to get Williams? Well, I'm going for Stroud just because, and my thing is with this, guys, when I see a quarterback and he's there and it's possible for us to get him, let's just go get him. And look, I know, look, our offensive line next year would struggle. We don't have the weapons yet. CJ Stroud is 21 years old. He's 21. He doesn't turn 22 until October 10. The kid was born October 10, 2001. October 2001. He's not going to turn 22 until the middle of next season. He can struggle his rookie year. He'll be fine. But at least we already have our quarterback in here. We'd suck next year, and then the next year we get the offensive lineman. Now we'd have to get him in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But at least we'd already have our quarterback. If you gamble next year and we end up doing better, then we have to trade up back. You never really know. I just think when you can get the guy and you believe in him, go get him. Because you never know. You can sit here and say, and yes, I agree. Next year's draft class looks better than this year's draft class. But I heard the same thing about this year's draft class last year. Didn't it? And yeah, when you were right. But everyone said, do not draft a quarterback in 2022 because there's a way better class in 2023. That's what everyone said. And we were right, but that's what everyone said. And now everyone's saying, don't draft a quarterback in 2023 because there's better quarterbacks in 2020. Well, then when are you going to draft one? Are there always better quarterbacks coming down the line? More years than not, there are. So you just sometimes have to take one. But, next year, yes, you have Caleb Williams. You have Drake May. You have some of you like Bo Nix. I'm not a fan. You have Michael Penix. You have some other names. So I get it. I get the appeal. I guess which one do I prefer? If we can get Stroud this year, I want Stroud. If it takes 3 firsts and a third, the Trey Lance deal, I'm doing it because you're also stealing away from the Indianapolis Colts. And I don't want to see CJ Stroud handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor and throwing the ball deep to Michael Pittman, and they still got DeForest Buckner on the opposite side. Oh, damn. The Colts and the Jaguars are now better than us. And then the Texans have Bryce Young, who's coming. And they're rebuilding. And here comes John Mechie. And here comes the wide receiver they're going to draft in round 1 or 2. And here comes Damian Pierce. And here comes this rebuilding defense. We'll see if Derek Stingley ends up being a better cornerback. So I can see us being at the bottom of the division very soon if the Colts get Stroud. So I'm worried about the Colts getting Stroud. But maybe they get Stroud, and then next year we get Williams. That would be crazy. We'd have Williams, Stroud, Young, and Lawrence all in the same division. Yo, that would be nuts. Yo, that'd be crazy. Now they're all prospects, and probably 1 or 2 of them are going to end up being busts. But just on paper, that looks crazy. Okay, actually, we're going to do one more because we have one more super chat. This is Kick It to the King Productions. Thank you for the second super chat, Kick It to the King Productions, who says, only reason we have our strength / conditioning coach since 2019 around is because he coached his son at Boston College. And this is actually a decent point. This is actually a very decent point. And it could be the case. I don't know. I don't want to go that far to say that there's that much nepotism going on, but I think there is reason to believe that for sure. And we still haven't made the change, and we're not going to this season. So if we struggle again with the injuries, man, heads absolutely have to roll. So with that said, that's going to do it for me here, recapping Rand Carthon's introductory press conference. Again, if you haven't watched that already, guys, go watch that introductory press conference. Definitely inspired a lot of confidence for me, and I'm sure it will for you. Until next time, this has been MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment. I'm out. See you all later.